Hello, this is BBC Newsline with Noel Thompson and Donna Traynor.
Good evening. Our main story. 7 people, including 4 police officers, die on our roads over the weekend.
I'm in Warren Point, at the scene of the worst tragedy to hit the police in a decade. The police officers died when their car crashed here and burst into flames.
Also on the programme.
The worst fears of workers at this factory are confirmed. Almost 100 of them are to lose their jobs.
Will a cut in VAT encourage us to shop till we drop? We look at what it really means.
We'll show you how Rory McIlroy from Hollywood has joined the world's elite golfers.
And after some jittery weather over the weekend, things settle down today, but will it last? Join me later to find out.
Good evening. 7 families are grieving after a weekend of dreadful accidents on our roads. In one crash alone, 4 police officers lost their lives.
Perhaps what's poignant about their deaths is that they were on their way to help colleagues when their car crashed. And local people made frantic efforts to save them, but couldn't.
That accident happened just outside Warren Point. Our reporter Mervyn Jess is there for BBC Newsline. Mervyn.
Indeed, as you say, frantic efforts made by people here in Warren Point to try to rescue the officers trapped inside their burning car. Those efforts came to nothing, unfortunately. And those are just some of the questions that will be raised by the inquiry, which is being headed up by a senior investigating officer into this crash, which claimed the lives so suddenly and so tragically of 4 policemen from the Mourne area. Of course, that's the next step, really. At the moment, the focus is very much on the families and indeed on the grieving that's going to follow this tragedy. Today, there were a stream of people coming here, laying flowers at the scene of the crash behind me. In fact, within the last hour, about 10 officers in plain clothes, ordinary civilian clothes, came here, close colleagues of the 4 victims, to pay their own floral tributes privately at the scene. But it's been a day when all sorts of people have come here to this bridge to pay their respects. People have been coming here to Moygannon Bridge since the road reopened following yesterday's tragedy. Among them, friends, work colleagues and family members. Heartfelt messages were attached to every bunch of flowers left at the buckled and blackened crash barrier on the stone bridge. This is where the 4 police officers died so suddenly, so unexpectedly, so tragically. The police vehicle was on its way from Warren Point, which is in that direction. It then came round that corner and appears to have lost control on this stretch of road, mounting the pavement here, indicated by the arrows, and then spinning round so that the rear end of the vehicle impacted with that crash barrier and that wall at the Moygannon Bridge. The damage to the Shogun was extensive. As it was being lifted away from the crash site, the extent of the fire was clearly visible at the rear of the vehicle. A local taxi driver, who was among the first on the scene, described how people tried to free the 4 policemen trapped inside as flames engulfed the Shogun.
And I had the fire extinguisher in my hand, maybe 10 foot from it. There was people banging the glass and trying to get in, and I just thought, well, I just natural instinct was to join in and just hit the glass as well. So I was hitting it with the fire extinguisher, but it was no good. There was just nothing, just couldn't get in. Another friend of mine was a taxi driver, he pulled up behind it as well. All he could do was watch in horror, and maybe 10, 12 people trying at the same time had tried to get in. He was just standing against the wall here and there was nothing we could do. It was just hopeless. A pensioner who lives beside the crash scene saw the frantic efforts to save the officers.
Couldn't get the doors open, like. The heat of the locks and all, they couldn't get them opened.
But people tried to get them open, I understand.
They did. Yeah, policemen worked very hard.
Trying to get into the car?
Trying to get it. Worked very hard.
What wasn't to be?
No, not help them.
A member of the policing board says hard lessons may need to be learnt from this tragedy.
Measures that are put in for the safety of officers may not be always beneficial in certain circumstances, and I think that we do have to look long and hard about how we police the future and what sort of vehicles that we need to do that. And certainly, there are issues about fire extinguishers and round, but to be honest, until we really know the facts of the matter, it's quite hard to draw definitive conclusions.
Yesterday, the Assistant Chief Constable outlined how a black box recorder fitted to the Shogun vehicle will form a vital part of the crash investigation.
The vast majority of our police vehicles are fitted with a detailed black box which will record exactly all of the details of the incident at the time. And so, obviously, if there is any issue with the vehicles, that will be looked into.
At this particular moment, the focus is very much on the families of the victims, some of whom include young children. The loss of 4 police officers is a lot to take in for everyone concerned. But it's hardest of all for those who were closest to the men who died.